the Vikings. The very word evokes images of fierce warriors clad in armor and wielding formidable weapons. Longboats sailing across the sea, their dragon-headed prows cutting through the waves, and tales of daring raids and conquests that struck fear into the hearts of many. But who were these people, and where did they come from? What drove them to explore and conquer? The Vikings hailed from Scandinavia, a region in northern Europe that encompasses modern-day Denmark, Norway and Sweden. This rugged and beautiful land shaped their way of life. They were not a unified nation, but rather a collection of different groups, each with its own customs, leaders and traditions. What united them was a shared Norse heritage, a seafaring tradition and a thirst for adventure and discovery. Life in Scandinavia was harsh, with long, cold winters and limited farmland. This environment bred a resilient and resourceful people. They became skilled in various crafts, from metalwork to weaving, and their resourcefulness was key to their survival. Skilled shipbuilders and navigators, the Vikings were masters of the sea. Their shipbuilding techniques were advanced for their time. They built sleek and sturdy longships capable of navigating both open waters and shallow rivers, allowing them to travel far and wide, reaching distant lands. These maritime skills would become instrumental in their rise as explorers, traders and, yes, raiders. Their voyages took them to new territories, where they left a lasting impact on history. The year 793 AD marks a pivotal moment in history, the beginning of the Viking Age. This era, spanning several centuries, would see the Norse people embark on extraordinary voyages, leaving an indelible mark on the world. In June of that year, a group of Norse raiders descended upon the unsuspecting monastery of Lindisfarne off the coast of England. This attack was not just a simple raid, it was a calculated strike that demonstrated the Vikings' seafaring prowess and their ability to strike fear into the hearts of their enemies. This audacious attack, recorded by horrified monks, sent shockwaves throughout Europe. The brutality and efficiency of the raid were unprecedented, and it marked the beginning of a new era of Viking expansion and conquest. The raid on Lindisfarne was not an isolated incident. It was the first of many such attacks that would terrorize coastal communities across Europe. The Vikings' reach extended far beyond their Scandinavian homelands. Over the next 3 centuries, the Vikings would leave their mark on much of the known world. Their influence can be seen in the cultural and genetic legacies they left behind, as well as in the many place names that still bear their mark. From the British Isles to the Byzantine Empire, the Vikings established trade routes, settled new lands, and integrated with local populations. From the shores of North America to the Caspian Sea, their longships carried them far and wide. These voyages were not just about raiding, they were also about exploration and discovery. Their longships carried them far and wide. These vessels were marvels of engineering, capable of navigating both open seas and shallow rivers, allowing the Vikings to penetrate deep into the heart of Europe. But why did the Vikings embark on these journeys? What drove them to leave their homes and venture into the unknown? The reasons were complex and varied. Some were driven by the harsh realities of life in Scandinavia, where limited resources and harsh climates made survival difficult. Some sought wealth and plunder, driven by the promise of silver and treasures. The riches of foreign lands were a powerful lure for many Viking warriors. Others were landless younger sons, seeking fame, fortune, and a place to call their own. In a society where inheritance often went to the eldest son, younger siblings had to find their own paths. Still, others were merchants, eager to establish trade routes and profit from exotic goods. The Vikings were not just warriors, they were also traders and explorers whose journeys helped to shape the medieval world. The Vikings are often remembered for their raids, and for good reason. Their lightning-fast attacks on coastal settlements left a trail of destruction and instilled fear in the hearts of many. Churches and monasteries, often repositories of wealth, were prime targets. However, it's important to remember that the Vikings were more than just raiders. They were also skilled explorers, venturing into uncharted waters and discovering new lands. They established settlements in Iceland, Greenland, and even North America centuries before Columbus. The Vikings' voyages were not for the faint of heart. They faced treacherous seas, unpredictable weather, and the ever-present danger of encountering hostile natives. Yet they persevered, driven by a spirit of adventure and a desire to expand their horizons. One of the most remarkable feats of Viking exploration was their discovery of North America. Around the year 1000, led by Leif Erikson, a group of Vikings set sail from Greenland seeking new lands to the west. They landed on a coast they named Vinland, a land of fertile soil, abundant grapes and self-sowing wheat. Though the Vikings established a short-lived settlement in Vinland, it was eventually abandoned. Despite their early arrival, the Vikings' presence in North America had little lasting impact. Nevertheless, their voyages stand as a testament to their seafaring prowess and their insatiable curiosity. The Vikings' westward expansion was not limited to North America. They also played a significant role in the history of the British Isles. Viking raids and settlements had a profound impact on the political and cultural landscape of England, Ireland, and Scotland. The Vikings were formidable warriors, renowned for their ferocity in battle. They were skilled swordsmen, axemen, and spearmen, and their fighting style emphasized speed, aggression, and surprise. They often fought in a tight formation known as the shield wall, a nearly impenetrable barrier of shields and muscle. However, the Vikings' military success was not solely due to their fighting prowess. They were also masters of strategy and logistics. Their longships allowed them to strike quickly and disappear just as rapidly, making them difficult to catch and defeat. The Vikings' reputation as fearsome warriors spread far and wide. Their name became synonymous with terror and destruction, and their raids left an indelible mark on the collective memory of Europe. Section 6. Viking culture and society. Beyond their reputation as fierce warriors and intrepid explorers, the Vikings were a complex society with a rich and multifaceted culture. Their influence extended far beyond the battlefield and the high seas. They were skilled artisans, crafting intricate jewelry, weapons, and everyday objects. Their craftsmanship was not only functional, but also highly decorative, reflecting their artistic sensibilities. Their mythology, passed down through generations of storytellers, is filled with tales of gods and monsters, heroes and villains. These stories were more than just entertainment. They were a way to pass on values and lessons. Viking society was hierarchical, with a clear social structure. The community was organized in a way that ensured everyone knew their place and their role. At the top were the kings and jarls, or chieftains, who held the most power and were responsible for leading their people in both war and peace. Followed by the freemen, farmers, traders, and craftsmen, who formed the backbone of Viking society. They were the ones who produced the goods and services that kept the community thriving. And at the bottom were the slaves, who, despite their low status, were an integral part of the Viking economy, performing essential labor. Women in Viking society had more rights than in many other cultures of the time. They could own property, divorce their husbands, and were often involved in business and trade, and even become powerful leaders. Some women held significant influence and were respected figures in their communities. Religion played a central role in Viking life. Their spiritual beliefs were deeply intertwined with their daily activities and their understanding of the world. They worshipped a pantheon of gods, including Odin, the All-Father, who was associated with wisdom, healing, and death; Thor, the god of thunder, who was revered for his strength and protection; and Freya, the goddess of love, beauty, and fertility. Their myths and legends reflect their beliefs about the cosmos, the afterlife, and the cyclical nature of existence. These stories provided a framework for understanding their place in the universe, and the importance of honor and courage. For the Vikings, living a life of bravery and integrity was paramount, and these values were celebrated in their sagas and traditions. Section 7. The end of the Viking Age. The Viking Age, like all eras, eventually came to an end. By the late 11th century, the Vikings' power had begun to wane. Several factors contributed to their decline, including the rise of powerful kingdoms in Europe, the Christianization of Scandinavia, and climate change. In England, the Viking threat was decisively ended in 1066 with the Norman conquest. In Scandinavia, the unification of Denmark, Norway, and Sweden under Christian kings marked a turning point. As Christianity spread, the old ways of the Vikings gradually faded. The end of the Viking Age did not mean the end of Viking influence. Their culture, genes, and stories continued to resonate throughout the regions they explored and settled. Their legacy lived on in the sagas and poems, the place names and languages, and the very DNA of the people they encountered. Section 8. The Viking Legacy. The Vikings left an enduring legacy on the world. Their voyages of exploration expanded the map of the known world and connected different cultures. Their raids and conquests left a lasting impact on the political and genetic landscape of Europe. Today, the Vikings continue to fascinate and intrigue. Their stories are told and retold in books, movies, and television shows. Archaeological discoveries constantly shed new light on their lives, beliefs, and achievements. From the rugged landscapes of Scandinavia to the shores of North America, the Vikings' presence is still felt. Their legacy is a reminder of a time of adventure, exploration, and cultural exchange, a time when the world was a very different place. Section 9 Conclusion. The Vikings were more than just fierce warriors and daring raiders. They were skilled explorers, traders, artisans, and storytellers. Their culture was complex and sophisticated, and their impact on the world was profound and lasting. Their voyages of exploration and conquest connected different cultures and left an enduring mark on the map of the world. Their stories continue to captivate our imaginations, reminding us of a time when the seas were vast and unknown, and the spirit of adventure burned brightly.